Good morning. It is 7:23. If you've been listening to our newscast with Ed this morning, news from the CRTC was released late yesterday afternoon, a decision about internet use. We did a story, this is going back in the summertime. Bell went to the CRTC and said, look, we want to charge, we the consumer, yes, you and I, for internet use in terms of how much we use the internet. The more we use the internet, the more we would get charged. And it was the same story for some of the smaller internet companies. What does this all mean? David Redekop joins us this morning. He's a co-founder of Nerds on Site, and he joins us live from his office this morning. And good morning, David.
Good morning, Steve.
David, we're trying to make sense of this decision yesterday. In simple terms, what does it mean?
Well, in simple terms, it's a way for Bell to completely, legitimately, and legally pass on new costs to the end customer.
Certainly not good news for the consumer.
No, unfortunately not. Not when we're already not competitive in the world of internet access speeds and costs.
So when we do a comparison, and we'll focus on the U.S. and versus Canada here, we not only pay more money for cell phone use, but now we're paying more for internet. Why was it so important for Bell to go to CRTC and saying we need more money?
Well, I mean, in a way, from Bell's perspective, I can understand, because over the years, so many of their products with margin have continued to be eroded for a good reason, because technology keeps on getting better and the delivery of it becomes less expensive. So it only made sense that that's how things would go down. So this is Bell flexing its arm and making the application, to our CRTC to say, look, we should be able to charge more under these terms and conditions. Now, they didn't get quite what they initially wanted. There was certainly a compromise, but they still got something.
Do we have any idea how much more it's going to cost for the internet user? And what about some of these smaller providers? Will they be able to survive, David?
Well, what will happen is, because new costs are going to be passed down to smaller providers, they now have to become more lean, or they have to pass the cost on to their customers. So that's why I'm saying, in the end, the consumer will end up paying for this decision. I know small ISPs already run on extremely slim margins. They're not going to be able to swallow the additional cost. It's just not going to be possible.
Some reports in the Financial Post says we could see increases within the next couple of years or so by as much as 20%. Could that be possible?
It could be possible, because one of the things that's still somewhat unclear is how much the charge is going to be. So effectively, Bell is going to charge its wholesale customers, so that's the regional and the smaller internet service providers. They're going to charge them by the size of the pipe, if you will, not by how much flows through the pipe, which is what they originally wanted. The compromise was not by how much flows through it, but you can go ahead and charge based on the size of it. So, over the years, we're used to, over the past, decade and a half, that we have increased capacity at the old rate. However, that's not going to happen anymore. Now, if you want to increase your capacity, you are definitely going to end up paying more on Bell's account, even if you're not using Bell as a provider.
David, I know your customer base is not only residential consumers, but also business. Knowing what we know about this announcement, how will it affect business here in Canada?
Well, it'll affect business, by the same margin as residential, because the same costs will be passed on to them. In business, however, it may not have quite the same impact, because most small ISPs have a larger profit margin with business customers than they do with residential. So they may be able to just say, well, if you're business, you're not impacted, but if you're our residential customer, here's the increase coming along.
So at the end of the day, who's the loser here, David?
Unfortunately, you and I, Steve, and the rest of the public.
And who's the winner?
Bell, 100%.
Yeah, they win again. And our time now is 7:28. David, listen, thank you very much for your insight this morning.
No problem. Thank you, Steve.
I'm sure you and I will talk about this issue again. Take care.
All right.
David Redekop, co-founder of Nerds on Site here on NEWSTALK at 1290 CJBK.